my usual prayer before a conference, and then we can start. Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. Amen. So there is a lot of suffering all over the world, and why precisely now this suffering is reaching new heights in all countries, all nations, and also intensifying and for every one of us. So the answer is that we are suffering because we lost the connection with our spirit, with the laws of creation, with God. And I'm not speaking about religion. We are suffering because we lost the understanding, completely oblivious to the real reason we are here on earth. And this suffering in this moment is intensifying because we are in a moment of a cosmic turning point in which all cycles are closing. Humanity as a whole and each and every one of us will reap what we have sown during many reincarnations. This is the time that different cultures, prophecies, and revelations refers to as the end of days or the days of the final judgment. So now when people are hearing the reason for the suffering, they usually say, but I'm a good person, I didn't hurt anybody, so why should I suffer? Or they say, but I believe in God, so why should I suffer? And then they ask another question, why does it seem that the bad guys actually is faring very well in this time, and they are not suffering? And the obvious question, why does God not intervene in all this suffering? And the last one, is there any plan of salvation? Is there any way of getting out of this suffering? And this lecture have 5 parts. It's a long lecture. And I hope that once you heard and processed all the parts, you will have the answers to all these burning questions. Okay, so let's start with part 1. The part 1 name is the different souls that live on planet Earth. Okay, the world's population is currently stand at about 8 billion people. Spiritually, it can be divided into 7 groups. We will define each group and describe the human souls that belong to each group. And as we do that, your task is to look inwardly, make a little test, and figure out to which group you think you belong. Okay, we have 7 groups. So let's start with the first one. The first group is the Luciferian souls. And what characterizes this group, okay, this group of souls, they serve Lucifer or Satan consciously. They have a strong willpower and they occupy key positions in politics, the media, science, the arts, and the various religions. They hate humanity. What is their purpose? Their purpose is to lead to the annihilation of most of humanity and to exercise total control over those who remain. What are their strategies? Well, they have very, very brilliant strategies of which we must become known, causing the disconnection of man from his spirit and from God, and chaining him to the materialistic world, which is actually the prison of the matrix. Here it is very, very important to understand something. Every person who have a consciousness level which is material, in other words, he cannot perceive anything beyond the 5 senses, actually is a slave of darkness, and he is in a prison of the matrix, even if you go to demonstration, protest, and social media against the New World Order, or whatever else, okay? Material consciousness, it means that we are prisoner in the matrix. What other strategies does the Luciferian souls have? confusing the seekers of light by creating parties that seem to represent different opinions. Each time one of the group is identified as the bad guys who are fighting the other group, which is the good guys. So for example, we have right and left, Democrats and Republican, but actually all these political parties are nothing but two sides of the same coin. Another strategy, masking their malicious and sick plan, humanitarian cover, as a marketed to the masses. So for example, the indoctrination of gender identity to children, allowing children to be free to change their gender if they don't feel comfortable with it, without the need for parental approval. Last strategy, using women with cold Luciferian beauty to promote and arouse sexual promiscuity and fantasies, and most importantly, to destroy true femininity, which will immediately lead to the destruction of true masculinity and the ultimate destruction of humanity. So I really hope that none of you, none of the listeners of this conference find himself belong to this group. Okay, let's continue to the second one. The second group is the evil souls. And what characterizes this group, okay, this is interesting. They have weak souls, which mean they have no ability to generate energy or power of their own. So they have to draw it like a vampire from others. They are bitter, are driven by hatred, and they openly act in an aggressive and sadistic manner. They have only one goal, to harm and cause distress and stress, because it gives them satisfaction. In fact, they get power from the suffering of others. Often, one of the strategies is to appear as poor, victimized people in order to arouse pity from their prey and thus exhaust them to cause them suffering. The Luciferian souls use these evil souls to attack humans who aspire to the light and take away their power. So I hope none of the listeners belong to this group either. Third group. The third group is the souls of those who consider themselves good people. I will have in the future a lecture about this group, and the lecture name would be Good People in the Service of Darkness. And now you will have a faint idea why. What characterizes this group, okay? This large group consists of people for whom it is very important to be appreciated and loved. They want others to recognize and admire how good of a people they are. And they are always nice and kind because it is very important for them to gain recognition and to receive applause. That is, the soul belonging to this group are sure that all their actions are for the benefit of others, but in fact, what is really important to them is only themselves. So when we speak about people who are egoists, okay, the egoists only want things for themselves, and we can recognize them very easily. But people with ego, this is more difficult to recognize because apparently they are doing things for us or for other people. But if we look at them with our intuition, we can see that actually they're doing things for others in order to get recognition, and it's actually doing things for themselves. What else characterizes this group? They like to accumulate knowledge so they can show off that they know a lot. Therefore, if suddenly they may lose appreciation or be forced to admit that there is something they may not know, they will insult and attack those who have higher knowledge than they do. They like to refer to themselves as the new future of a more human humanity. However, in practice, these souls take concepts from the light and adopt them only for the earthly dimension. And thus they promote the legalization of everything that is sick as the new lifestyle of the modern man. In the name, for example, of freedom and justice, which are concepts from the light, this group promotes For example, feminism and equality between the sexes, okay? Although they are equal but different in nature. They promote sexual freedom, which is nothing more than promiscuity because the spiritual connection is lacking. They promote the legalization of drugs, which further numb and deaden the mind, especially of young people. Do the worst thing, that the elimination of God and the divine power as the only power that can bring healing and change. Also this, the elimination of this power. And also something that we will speak a lot in the future, the preoccupation with emotion, which is the most dangerous distortion, as people fall to the illusion that this, dealing with emotion all the time, is the higher inner work. They confuse between spirit, intuition, and emotion. We will speak about it in further lectures. So those who awaken to the lies of the matrix, also belong to this group. They think they are fighting for the light, but actually they are soldiers of darkness because they are fighting only for earthly things. As we said before, as long as your consciousness is only focused on material things, as important as they may be, you are soldier of the darkness. So if people are fighting only for money, for health, for democracy, they belong to this group, to the people who feel that they are good people. And paradoxically, these souls also aid the Luciferian souls, because anyone who is only occupied with materialistic things actually strengthens the matrix and bind himself to it. So to what does we can compare it to an unhappy marriage, and they go to therapy and they speak only about earthly things, okay? The husband promised he will help in the house and with the children. The woman promised she will not use too much the credit card, and love will not come and harmony to this couple, because as long as they cannot solve the inner connection, if they don't have inner connection, they cannot solve the problem by only dealing with earthly things. So sometimes these kind of people who belong to this group, they have a longing for something higher, for truth. And most of the time because they're too weak to propel themselves toward this high goal, they do not succeed. So sadly, the fate of this group will not be as they think. They are not going to be the future of more humanity, because actually they are going to be the victims of the Luciferian souls. And their world will collapse, because as more the justice is progressing and everything will become more difficult to people without faith in God, all their theories, all their efforts, all their demonstration will not bring any result, and they will be very, very depressed. However, if you feel truly, honestly, that you belong to this group, so there is a solution, and the solution is, in order to change, to change the destiny, is to make a restart our entire belief system. It's very, very difficult for the good people to do so, because they are convinced they are the most human, they are the new humanity. So they need a lot of humbleness to say, okay, I put aside all the things I thought that they are the truth. This movement is very, very difficult, but it can save people. And at least for a time, I'm opening myself to something new. This is the remedy for the people who belong to this group. Okay, so let's go to the fourth group. Maybe you don't find yourself in this group or another, but sometimes when you read the description, we are also going to have this lecture in an article. So afterwards you can read it. And also after the video is going to be edited by our editation department, you can also listen to the conference again. And I truly recommended you to do so, because there's a lot of information here. Sometimes when you read the description, suddenly somebody that you know jump into this description, and you can understand why he's acting in this or another way. Okay, so this group, what characterizes this group? The intellectual souls bound to the material world. They are neither bad or weak, but they are considered spiritually indolent because only their intellect is active, which in many cases is brilliant. Their motivation and ambition are material and earthly for the benefit of themselves and those they love. And their slogans are, "You only live once," and "Here and Now." This still doesn't make them dark people, but because all the focus in their life is on the material, their souls are bound to matter, and this ultimately draws them into the darkness and even to evil. Okay, these people, for example, when they face a material gain, it leads them to act out of their dark side, that is to forget the values for the sake of what they can gain. And afterwards, these people like very much, in order to quiet their conscience, often they like to donate money, although they, of course, don't feel that they are doing anything dark since they have doing nothing wrong. So the love for material things is leading to all this downfall. Also, something that characterizes this group is that they are the one who want to jump on the train at the last minute, because as long as they don't recognize an immediate advantage, they will never change anything in themselves and their behavior. So darkness used also these souls in order to topple and trap more souls into the matrix. And also this group of soul will stand behind because their consciousness level does not match with the new world. Okay, if you find yourself identifying honestly with this group, what can you do? Yeah, in order to change your destiny, there is something you can do, and is to leave the attachment to material success. It is very similar to the man who asked Jesus, "Teacher, what good thing must I do to get eternal life?" I don't know if you remember it. It's in Matthew chapter 19, verses 16 to 22. This man comes to Jesus and asks, "What can I do in order to get eternal life?" And since this man was a man with attachment to material success, to money, Jesus answered him, "Go, sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven." If you cannot do it, if you belong to this group and you cannot do this, so you cannot pass the judgment. Fifth group, we are getting to an interesting group here. And this group is the soul of the seekers bound to dogmatic beliefs. What characterizes this group? To this group belong the souls of people who are very religious, but who have bound themselves to earthly establishments such as churches and priests, temples and rabbis, cult or esoteric brotherhood. They really seek, all these people, they seek the connection with the light, but they are unable to perceive spiritual happenings because their intuition is blocked due to blind obedience to the rigid laws and customs. Even if sometimes their intuition manage to break through their rigidity, they immediately suspect that this must come from the darkness, because their feelings, which are controlled by the rules of the dogma, tell them something else. To this group also belong the group of the New Age, who calls themselves New Age seeker, but even they also cannot perceive what matches the knowledge they already have, and they lack the ability to objectively examine anything new. So what is in common with the religious people and the New Age seekers? That they are not open to something new. They think what we believe, our belief system, is the right one, and they cannot, and they don't want, and they also cannot examine objectively something new. They can accept a new idea just as long as it flatters their ego, and then they will stick to it happily. But if not, no. Also something else that characterizes this group, they like to admire the messenger or the leader and not the content he brings, which actually we have to do the opposite. We have to look only at the content of what the person or the teacher or the master is giving, and not the person himself. Yeah, gold is gold in the hand of a king or a beggar. Also, these souls are not completely lost and still have a possibility of salvation, but they are dangerous because they twist and distort the truth. I would like to give you an example of this dangerous thing of this group. For example, there is a very famous master in India. I will not mention his name, but I'm sure many people will be able to figure it out alone. And he speaks a lot about the problems in marriage, which true seekers can find themselves identified with this description, because we all know that marriage is in a big crisis in the world. And also about this, we're going to have a lecture in New Human Being, New World. So when a true seeker reads this or listens to this master, he finds that there is truth here. But then the master is making a twist, the master, yes, and said, is what is the solution to the problem in marriage? Open marriage, open relationship. So the mixing between truth and lie, this is the most dangerous thing in this group, because the spirit is recognizing something that is truth, but it will not lead to the right way. This is why this group is dangerous. So for this kind of people, they must be humble also. Humbleness is the key word for this, to start from the beginning, to leave their knowledge or what they think that is the truth aside and start from the beginning. The sixth group, awakened soul longing for the light of truth. Actually, this group they are the true seekers among mankind. And what characterizes this important group? They are definitely not perfect souls. They are still required to atone and make amends for past mistakes, but their spirit blazes in search for the light and strive upward. They have not lost their connection to their spirit. Their intuition is still alive. Therefore, they still have a connection to the spiritual sphere, also known as heaven. They can be easily identified by one characteristic. They refuse to be attached to earthly material things, such as to people, to power, to influence, or material possessions. Hence, they are prepared at any given moment to leave everything behind them for a higher purpose, even if physically and monetarily it will be to their determined. It is also meant that they can leave behind opinions, beliefs, and knowledge if they find something higher. They are also honest and pure. That is, they don't lie, scheme, or deceive. So compared with the world population, this is an extremely small group, speaking about only about a few millions in the world. But however, this is the reason that the light maintain our Sodoma and Gomorrah world. We are in a situation which is much worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. And we are not going through destruction because of these seeking souls. And if you listen to the first lecture of the Alma School for Humanity, when we opened the school, I said that the target audience of our school is exactly these people. So if you are listening to this description and honestly you find yourself in this group, you are very welcome and you are in the right place. The last group, the seventh group, the spirit of the 144 called ones. So what characterizes this group? First, I have to tell a story. The book of Revelation is the book which is found in the New Testament, and it describes the events of the end of days and the day of final judgment. And there it tells us the story of 144 human spirits which bear the seal on their forehead. And these are the spirits of the called ones who made a vow to reincarnate on earth during our time, the final judgment, and to serve God and mankind who can still be saved. These spirits were prepared for their calling for hundreds and thousands of years, and through the vow they made, they are already connected to the light of truth and only need to regain their memory of it. Each of them has an army of helpers and guides from the beyond, as well as special protection, so they can fulfill their calling. Now, the fate of the world and the fate of humanity depends on these spirits. They are the leadership of the light for humanity. They are the one who are responsible for the fulfillment of the salvation plan from the light to humanity. And you must understand that God does not save anybody personally. Salvation plan, okay? God never ever save anybody personally, because divine justice is conducted automatically according to the laws predetermined and created at the beginning of a creation, and not personally by God. Okay, so God is not going to save us personally. Also, no political or religious Superman will come to save us. This also will not happen. So, what is the path of the light? The path of the light was always the same, to send us messengers who bring us the plan of salvation. And the plan that the messengers are bringing, afterwards we're going to speak how we are going to recognize them. But the plan is always not a waving a magic wand, no, as a demanding plan, which demand each of us to determine and courageous alignment with God's laws and creation. And also we must go through a severe purification of everything which is not pure and distorted. This is the plan of salvation. It's not hocus pocus. I don't know in English if we can say hocus pocus. In Hebrew, you say hocus pocus. It is not. Okay, it's not God personally. It's not a leader. It's not somebody who will come and change the world. As we must change ourselves in order the world to be changed. And Alma School for Humanity state's goal is to seek out these spirits, these powerful spirits, all over the world. I'm very happy that we have so many people for so many countries. Really, truly, it's beyond any expectations of all of us here. But this is our goal. We are calling them. I'm calling these spirits to wake up to their powers, to wake up to their mission, and to stand and serve the light as they promise. So they are the fate of humanity, and they are on them, yeah. The fate of humanity, which still can be saved, depend on them. Okay, so please remember these 7 groups, because we are going to speak about them as we are continuing with the lecture. Let's go to the second part. Remember, we have 5. We are at number 2. The school of planet Earth. So let's imagine that, actually we don't have to imagine, this is the truth, but we come here, we are spirits. We come here to this earth in order to do one thing, to develop from a state of unconsciousness to conscious. We can look at all the things that are happening in our life in the several reincarnations as a school for humanity and a school for our spirit. And the goal of this school, like any other school, is to graduate. And to graduate means that we can go back home to paradise as conscious spirits. It means that this place, even if it's beautiful for some of us, it's not our final goal. It's only a school, it's only a station. This is how we should treat everything that has happened to us in this life. Our goal is to go back home, and home is paradise. But we can only enter the home if we are conscious, if we experience, if we are having knowledge, and we become mature, and then we can come home. Okay, so in this school, the creator put a law from the beginning of the school, and the law is that every student, every spirit have a free choice. We are learning through free choice. And the free choice is we can choose to develop close to the light. It means that we recognize that the material world is not our home. Okay, so we are not in the matrix. We don't have only material earthly consciousness. And if we remember this, it means that our senses, beyond the five senses, the intuition is open. Our development is going to be fast and blessed. But we can also choose to be tempted to move astray from the light toward the darkness. Now, darkness is not bad, it's not evil in the beginning. Okay, it's just far away from the light. And when we are far away from the light, we start to forget why actually we are here. This is what happened to Adam and Eve in paradise. You remember this story? And if not, you can, this is part of the film we have in our school about codes of Genesis. And the code of tree of knowledge is, it's not a story, it's a code telling us what happened to Adam and Eve when they decided to develop in the wrong direction. And the wrong direction, it means that slowly you perceive only what is earthly and strive only to what is material. And this ambition is finally developed into evil and to suffering. These are the two choices we have here. So for those who are asking, or they have this question right now, why are the bad guys actually are not suffering at all? Yeah. So the keyword here is seemingly. Why it seems? It's only seem. Because we have to remember two things. One, that the material world, actually they are material words, but we are not going to speak about it in this class. It's only here we have free will between good and bad, dark and light. When we finish with this material world, there is only one law. Or we get up with a high spirit, or we get down to hell with a dark spirit. So seemingly, if you see somebody here is happy and he's a bad person, it's only because we are in the school. And in the school, we have free choice. But when we finish school, when we are dead, every person is like flying to where he belongs, according to his level of consciousness. And second, the fact that we are defining happiness only according to how much money this person have or how much vacation he could take is only because we perceive and define happiness according to materialistic point of view. Actually, these people, if you look at them with intuition, they are not happy. They don't know what happiness is. And this is why they need all the time to accumulate things, to buy more things, to eat more things, because they are empty. So we should not be jealous at them at all. Okay, the sad story of humanity is that since Adam and Eve, the majority of humanity chose the material way, opposite to the direction of the plan of the light, and therefore the darkness has gained power and with it evil arouse, and of course also suffering. Okay, it's choosing the opposite direction to the plan of the light brings evil and then suffering. And the light, as we said before, always send his help through messengers. He sent many messengers to mankind, and they warn humanity about this deviation from the right path. But the majority of mankind not only did not listen to them, crucified them, betrayed them, treat them bad. There is no one single true messenger from the light who came to earth and was accepted with warm hands. So much we have divided from the light. And we find ourselves now in the time of the final judgment, okay? What is happening in the school and the final judgment? The school is about to close. Why? Because the laws of creation tells us that everything which is material has a natural process of beginning, development, and disintegration. This process takes hundreds of years, according to what we know, 900 years, which is nothing in comparison to all the time that this planet exists. And this means something very decisive to us as human spirits. If we are not graduate, if we cannot graduate and come back home to paradise, we are actually going to be part of the disintegration of the school. And we must do our graduation now in an accelerated speed. We have no time for repeating another year, another year, another year, like in school, you know, we always have another opportunity, but if the school is about to close, you have to, and you want to graduate, you must do it quickly. And if not, you are lost forever. So this is planet Earth, our school. The third part. The third part is the neutral power. Like the power of God is the only power that exists in creation, flows through all creation and also through our school. This neutral power, also we can call it energy or the living power. And this power animates creation. Without this power, nothing could exist. Interrupting this power, it is like similar to the interruption of oxygen or the blood supply to the human body. And this power reaches planet Earth as a neutral power. What does it mean, neutral power? It means that man, according to his free will, can choose what to do with this power. Take it to good things or evil things, depending on how you use it. Just given a very simple example, we wake up at the morning and we have energy and we can decide how we are going to start our day. We have energy. We can complain. We can have gratitude. We can have a bulldog face to our children, to our spouse or whatever. We can smile. Every moment we decide what to do with this neutral force that God is giving to us. So it's not about philosophy, it's about really daily life. What are we doing? What we decide to do with this living force that we all have. So I would like to read with you two verses from the Bible that for me they help me to understand like the two ways actually precisely that we should treat this power. So the first one says, "And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth." God is the source of the power, and he gives us the power to have wealth. And the other way of thinking, the human way of thinking, the humans who are disconnected from their spirit, God, and the laws of creation, my power and the might of my hand have gained me this wealth. So if we have the first consciousness, we have blessing. If we have the other one, we take God out of the picture, we will be cursed. The secret of either individuals, family, nation, or all of humanity will experience defeat or victory. Depends how we treat this power. Because actually there is only one power in the world. This is the power of God, and men can use it for good or for bad. Okay, unfortunately, since the majority of humanity choose the second opinion, planet Earth has become a dark place where the darkness has the upper hand. So now at this point, okay, are you with me? Okay, just show me your fingers. Okay, good. I would like to see more fingers. Good. More faces. Great. New faces, old faces. Good. Okay, so now let's go back to the first part of the lecture and focused on the two groups. Okay, the Luciferian souls, they are at the beginning, number one. Okay, and the seventh group, the spirits of the 141 called Swan. What is the main problem of humanity today? The main problem is that the camp of the darkness is strong. Yeah, the camp of the darkness is number 1 and 2. And the camp of the light, number 6 and 7, is weak. Yeah, we can all see it clearly. The world have more darkness than light. The camp of the darkness, the Luciferian souls and the evil soul, they are united, they work day and night to fulfill its plan to destroy humanity. The darkness, by the way, is not ignorant. The darkness is very familiar with the book of Revelation. The darkness knows the plan of the light, and it knows the laws of creation and how they work, and thus with scheming, elaborated strategies, it distorted and uses them to its own benefit. Just to give you a quick example, Hitler, he knows about the 1,000 years of kingdom of God. He distorted it to 1,000 years of the Reich. He took the cross, which is a symbol of truth, distorted it to the cross of the Nazis. In our days, I'm sure many people know the book The Secret. The Secret is a book who sells millions of copies in the world, speaking about the law of attraction of homogeneous species. And this is law in creation. It's one of the most important laws. But this book is teaching only how to use this law in order to get material benefit, material and earthly benefit. So the darkness is not ignorant. Most of the people are ignorant, but the darkness is not. The darkness knows the plan of the light and has distorted it to its plans. Now, when we look at this image, we ask ourselves, why does anyone know the plan of the light? We know the plan of darkness, yeah, the globalism, the New World Order, Agenda 2130. Why does anybody in creation in the world know about the plan of the light? Yes, and the plan of the light, I don't mean participating in protest and demonstration against the darkness and reacting to its moves. Yeah, because every time we are reacting to the enemy's moves, is like a game of chess. And if you play chess, you know that whoever simply reacts to the opponent's calculated move moves will surely lose. Okay, so I'm speaking about something else. I'm speaking about a complete, comprehensive plan that unites people behind it for a common goal. Let's go back to our 7 group, okay? Why do people all over the planet not know about the plan for the salvation of humanity? How is it possible that it seems that the camp of the darkness has more power than the camp of the light, when the light is the source of all power? The answer is that the darkness managed to develop very sophisticated strategies to help it, not only lure and topple all of humanity into its trap, but also draw one of the best and strongest power in creation, the power given to the cold ones. That is, that the main problem of humanity today is not the strength of the Luciferian souls, but the fact that the cold ones did not awaken to their mission. Therefore, they are not aware of the power at their disposal, and they do not use the power given to them for this purpose. This is the problem of humanity in this moment. That group number 7 are asleep, or worse, gave their power to the Luciferian souls. Okay, let's see something very, very interesting, something that really came to me. Many people in the world, especially if they belong to the awakened one, the one who protests against the governments and the New World Order, globalists, etc., when they see this image, they think it belongs to the darkness. Even our logo of Alma. So many people in Israel ask, why do you have this triangle? It's a symbol of darkness. But no, it's not a symbol of darkness. It is a symbol of a light that the darkness distorted to its plan. So I would like to give you this example so you can see and you can experience how the dark take the plan of the light and distort it. Okay, so originally, let's speak about this symbol is a holy symbol. This pyramid with one eye is a holy symbol, belongs to the light. And according to the light, we have Trinity. Yes, we have God at the top of the pyramid. And God is working in his creation with 2 forces, with love and with justice. And here it is very, very important to mention that divine love and justice are not aimed at what is comfortable and pleasant for man, but toward what benefits his spirit. Love and justice are 2 arms, which purpose is one: to lead man and humanity toward their highest goal. This is, for new students, I think it's a very, very big switch to listen to this. And we can compare it to parents, okay? If we have children, we want the best for them, yes? Okay, sometimes the best for them is a soft approach. But sometimes the best for them is clear boundaries. And this is how the power of God acts in creation. If we as humanity cannot understand the soft approach of love, remember, the goal is what is benefit the spirit, not what is comfortable for us. So then there is no other way than using the clear boundaries, which is justice, which is severe justice. Okay? But this is the pyramid: God, justice, and love in the light. And then it is also very important that in the light, the pyramid is in this order, okay? According to the light, the higher a person is, that is, the more developed his spirit is, the more power he has, the more he has to serve those people who are below him. Okay, the more we have, the more we have to give. Okay? I'd like to tell you a story. At the time that I was living in Argentina, I used to give live seminars, Gym for Life seminar. It was a day, 8 hours or 10 hours that I'm on the stage giving the seminar. And at that time, I also was giving private sessions. And one day, a woman was coming to see me for a private meeting. And there was nobody in the office, in the house of Alma in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. So I get down, I open the door, and she's like looking at me like I'm coming from the stage to the door. She was very, very moved. And I say, okay, so come in, go. And she was like looking at me with astonished face. Okay, we went up all the stairs and we get to the room, and I asked her, would you like to drink something cold, something warm? And her eyes was really like looking at me like, what do you want? So I asked her, what is going on? What happened? Why you are so astonished? So she said, I did not expect you to open the door for me and to serve me coffee or tea. So I told her what we recently saw. The more you are high, the more you have to serve other people in everything, not only in knowledge. With everything you have to serve others. And also another example from the Bible is Moses. Moses is the only one who can reach the top of the mountain, which is a symbol, a code for the highest conscious level. And he's serving the Israelites in the desert, helping them to change their consciousness of slaves to free people. He's a servant of God. The more we have, the more we are close to the light, the more we should treat ourselves as servants of humanity. We are not better than other people. This is wrong to think that if we are close to the light, we are better and we look at other people with arrogance. Absolutely the other way around. We have to serve humanity if we are truly close to the light. Just make a summary of this point. In other words, according to the light, to resemble the Creator means to give, while to rule means to serve. So the cold one should rule, but it means to serve and to give. Go back to the pyramid. Let's focus now on the eye. So the eye is the symbol that nothing is hidden from God. It does not mean that God personally watches us, but that is impossible to evade, hide, or circumvent his perfect laws in creation. Everything will come back to us sooner or later, here and there. So the laws of God, the perfect laws of God is the symbol of the eye. And men have free choice in relation to these laws. No one can force them on him. It's not a dictatorship, but he will have to bear all the consequences of his choices in accordance with the automatic activity of the laws of creation. Okay, so this is this holy symbol from the perspective of the light. Let's see what darkness did with this symbol. So according to the darkness, at the top of the pyramid, there is Lucifer, and Lucifer acts in creation in hatred and injustice. Luciferian hatred and injustice are aimed at the destruction of man because Lucifer hates man and humanity and desires their destruction. Okay, so according to this principle, according to darkness, the higher a person is, that is, the more material power he has, the more people have to serve him and in fact become his slaves. And that is precisely the goal of the rulers of the matrix. We know that 8% of world population controls most of the resources of the world and treat the other as their slaves. In other words, to resemble Lucifer means to take, and to rule means to enslave. What did darkness do with the eye? The eye is the symbol of the complete totalitarian control of humanity through digital surveillance and the enactment of arbitrary laws. The goal is to keep an eye on us, as all the dictatorships throughout the history of the world have done, except that now it is reaching new heights. If you see cameras all over the world, if you see that when you go from one country to another and everything, scanning your face, this is the big brother keeping his eye on us. And according to the darkness, man has no choice in relation to these earthly laws. They are forced on him, and if he does not obey them, he is deleted from the system. Okay. Now, since the future of humanity, the salvation plan for humanity depends on the work of the 144,000 called ones, the darkness devoted tremendous efforts to diverting these spirits from their mission. And unfortunately, it is succeeding, because the called one also fall into the various traps and temptation that it sets for them. In doing so, they transfer their power to the darkness and rob humanity for the help that they were required to provide. Let me clarify that not all the humanity can be saved. In fact, those who can be still saved are mainly those in the sixth group, that is, the awakened souls who long for the light of truth. The period of the days of the final judgment is a time of the closing of all the karmic cycles and the purification of everything that does not comply with the laws of creation. So this is something we cannot argue. This will happen. The change will happen. The only thing that is in question is what will happen in this change. If the power will be in the hands of the Luciferian soul, this means destruction. And if the power will come back to the hands of the 144,000 called one, we are going to have a healing. It will be difficult, but it's going to lead to the healing of mankind. And this is the big question. What will happen? Destruction or healing? So if you ask yourself, how is it possible that such a small number, 144,000 people, let's imagine that we find them, they arrive to the school, they remember the vow, they regain their power, they're doing each one of them what they have to do. And if you really belong to this group, the only thing that is interesting you in this life, every day, any moment, is only to serve God. You cannot be a cold one and have private issues, personal issues, ego issues. You serve even when you sleep. You don't find it too much, too hard, too difficult. You don't have a desire to do other things. Nothing can move you from this goal. This is the only thing you want, to serve God. So let's imagine. What is imagine? This is the reason this School for Humanity was established. And I have a conviction that we are going to find them. And we are going to warn them against all the trumps of the darkness and help them to fulfill what we promised. Therefore, the goal of Alma School for Humanity is to find these human spirits, help them remember their vow and fulfill it. Because if they fail, the world will fall. Only then, when this circle starts to function, they can start to influence the sixth circle, which is the circles of the souls who are longing for the light. And when this circle is established, we can start making the centrifugal force moving and affected other people, which the will is awakening them for the light. And then we will simply defeat the darkness. This is the plan of salvation. Part 4. The war on consciousness. Today, humanity is in the midst of a war on consciousness. He who controls the minds controls people without having to fire a single shot. And the darkness controls the minds of most of humanity through the communication system of the matrix. Mainstream media, press, television, radio, just look at the name television. Tell a vision. They are telling us a vision, and we believe this is the vision. And then they have electronic media, cell phone, computer, social media. I call all of them mind stealers because they promote the shallow, superficial way of thinking. And as Goebbels, he was the minister of propaganda and of the time of the Nazis, he said, if you repeat lies enough, people will eventually believe this is the truth. So the third war is the war of consciousness. Darkness controls the minds of most of the people. And the question is, what can we do in order to awake humanity from this deep slumber it is in? Why do most people fail to realize that actually they are prisoner of the matrix? Why does it make more and more suffering in order for us to wake up? Why can people open their minds and be receptive to something new? Maybe all of you had experienced this. You speak with somebody and you tell him, look what is going on in the world. The coronavirus, and we have all the nature disasters, and he just don't know what you're talking about. Part 5. The longing for the Lord that brings salvation. Looking at new people. Anyone who offers only earthly and materialistic solution to the sad state of humanity is a person imprisoned and confined without the walls of the matrix, which are built from an earthly and materialistic consciousness level. So this is not the solution. We are in the midst of a spiritual battle, not political, not economic, nor medical. And this is why without the intervention from the light, we cannot win. Throughout human history, help and salvation came to us when we agreed to shallow our pride and raised our eyes to heaven, to the Lord, who always hears true prayer and sends his help to us. But the Israelites continued to groan under the burden of slavery. They cried out for help, and their cry rose up to God. This is how the Israelites were saved from Egypt. And then Mahatma Gandhi said, "My best weapon is silent prayer." This is how Gandhi led the Indian independence movement in the struggle against the rule of the British Empire. And Martin Luther King, the uncompromising fighter against racism, said, "I believe that there is a creative personal power in the universe who is the ground essence of all reality, a power that cannot be explained in materialistic terms. History is ultimately guided by spirit, not matter. When there is no divine government, no absolute moral order, there are no fixed, immutable principles. Consequently, almost anything, force, violent, murder, lying, is a justifiable meaning to the millennial end. This type of relativism was abhorrent to me. So anyone who defeated darkness throughout history worked with the power of God, which is the only power that is. Therefore, we must always remember that it is not our strength and the might of our hands that will bring us salvation, but only God can give us the strength to be victorious. And as I said before, the light always sends us help through its messengers. So stay vigilant so that you are able to recognize these messengers when they appear and extend your hand to them willingly and out of gratitude, because only through their help can you be saved.